Hey everybody, Ryan and Matt here with Duckett Ladd Dental CPAs. As we are shooting this video, it is currently February and the crunch time of tax season is just around the corner. So today we thought we would just kind of hit on tax season, some tips, some tricks to think about as April 15th approaches. Matt, let's just kind of kick it off with April 15th. What does that date mean? What's really due on April 15th?
Yeah, that's the big date that's in the back of everybody's mind, right? So this is probably the biggest misconception that we see as far as what needs to happen on April 15th. The first thing is an extension. So if you need to extend your personal tax return, that extension needs to be filed by April 15th. That gives you until October to file your tax return. That does not give you until October to pay, though. April 15th is the day that you should pay in the remainder of your prior year tax liability, whatever you and your CPA have decided that is. And then April 15th is a deadline to do things like contribute to an IRA and wrap up, any year-end tax planning strategies. So even if you file that extension until October, the IRS expects you to pay what you owe by that April deadline. And if you don't, you can start racking up penalties and interest, even if your return isn't filed yet. And a lot of times that interest can't be waived, even if the penalties can. So for dentists, especially practice owners, that means planning ahead. So April isn't a surprise.
Yeah, and there can be a lot of confusion around that. They think, oh, let's file an extension, and that means the extension to pay the taxes as well, not just file it. But no, you still have to pay everything by April 15th. The extension, it's 6 months, but that is just a paperwork extension. Everything still does have to be paid by April 15th. So we've hit on extensions a little bit, Matt. Let's go into a little bit more detail. What are they, and when should they be filed? When should they be
Yeah.
used?
So I have clients that ask me, why do I even bother extending my return if I have to pay all my tax in April? There's a couple reasons, or really a lot of reasons for that. The most common reason is if you're waiting on documents like a K-1 or maybe a profit sharing calculation. It could also make sense to extend if you've had a really complicated year. So think practice purchase, sale, expansion, stuff like that. Or it could be that you just want more time to plan and not feel rushed when it comes to filing the tax return itself. For some people, the word extension is a bad word, but in reality, it can be a really helpful tool.
It certainly can. And sometimes there's some confusion, like, well, if I extend, does that mean I'm going to get audited? Does that increase my audit risk? And we don't take that stance here. We believe that it's certain risky fact patterns embedded in your tax return that increases your audit risk, not necessarily if you extend or not. So if you need to extend, if you want to extend, I wouldn't worry about the audit risk side of things there. Um, so as far as just general overall tax season, Matt, what are some of the main causes of chaos and stress during this time of year?
It's rarely the tax law. I mean, recently it has been because there's been so much in the air with pending legislation, and we kind of didn't know the rules. But I would say it's rarely that aspect. I'd say it's usually one of three things. The main one I see is inconsistent bookkeeping. So unexpected spikes in income, significant overpayment of tax. Maybe you had some expenses hiding on the balance sheet. You really need to be able to rely on your books throughout the year to get a true measure of your tax liability. The second one is delayed documents. So, us receiving tax support at the last minute, for instance, really hinders our ability to plan and project. A surprise to you is a surprise to us as well. And we can't plan for things that we don't know about. So, getting those documents in timely is really important. And then the third one is just kind of a lack of planning and tax projecting throughout the year. When you only think about your taxes once a year, April's always going to feel like a surprise, even if the numbers were kind of building all along. So having that proactive planning, 2, 3, 4 times a year with your CPA, sitting down, reviewing that tax liability, not doing that leads to a high degree of chaos.
Yeah, yeah. So all that being said, Matt, what should dentists be doing to help make tax season smoother?
Yeah, good question. So the dentists who have the smoothest tax seasons, in my opinion, are the ones who treat tax season as a year-round conversation rather than just a once or twice a year conversation. So first, I'd say you should be keeping clean and consistent books throughout the year. Tax season definitely isn't the time to fix 12 months worth of mess and find all kinds of receipts and documents. And kind of along that vein, getting your documents to your CPA as soon as you can. February is better than March. March is better than April. April 1st is better than April 15th. So as soon as you can do that, as soon as you can get those documents to your accountant, that'll help them prepare your return accurately, but it'll also give them time to review it and allow time for maybe some last minute strategies to be employed.
Even if you plan to extend, like we talked about earlier, still go ahead and send us what tax documents you have, now quickly so we can see if maybe there is anything due by April 15th.
Yeah, and I was just going to mention again that that planning aspect is probably the most important one. That's something you should be doing right now for the 2025 tax year and the 2026 tax year. Sitting down with your CPA every so often for tax planning. The goal here isn't so much about avoiding tax. It's about avoiding surprises. Paying taxes means that your practice is probably doing pretty well, which is a good problem to have. The problem is in the tax bill, it's being prepared for it. So if you've ever had to dip into your savings or an investment account to pay your taxes in April, that wasn't due to some personal failure. It was probably because you're not getting the planning that you need and deserve.
Yeah, so like Matt said, planning is key. Limiting surprises is key. Nobody wants to be hit with a tax bill they weren't planning on in April 15th. So make sure you're working with a CPA that is proactive on not only projections but planning strategies, all of the above. So hopefully this can give you guys some good tips on how to make tax season smoother and less stressful going forward. So thanks, Matt.
See you, Ryan.